Welcome to my multimedia showcasing video exhibiting the major skills of my short film. I created a 2D rotoscope animation using Adobe Animate. I exported the file with the frame rate being half that of the actual video's frame rate of 30 frames per second, meaning I only had to animate half of the frames from the original video's frame rate. From there on, I was ready to start animating. The animation process for each frame was by using the brush tool to outline the component of the video, and then using the fill tool to fill the inside of the outline with color. I got efficient at this animating process and was able to finish painting each component in around 30 to 40 minutes. I noticed by having multiple color components for the part of the animation, like the bottom of the surfboard and the person's shorts being a different tinted color, and by later editing the missed out bits of color when organizing layers, helps it look more realistic and smoother for the audience to view. I then changed the color shading of the surfer around to imitate a natural lighting with different shades of color, making it more realistic, whilst keeping the 2D drawn look. Here's the final animation. I changed the aspect ratio of my film, making the videos look so much more dynamic and cinematic. Compared to the most common aspect ratio of 16:9, I selected to use the CinemaScope 21:9 aspect ratio as it directs the audience's vision to certain areas of the screen. After filming my storyboarded camera shots for my intro using a tripod for stable video, I first edited the camera shots by cutting all the takes, which took too much time, so I solved this by watching the shot and choosing the best take to use. I made a teleportation effect of me teleporting into the TV through masking my body and using the transform effect to shrink my body and pull me into the TV, using the scale effect and keyframing my body's position towards the TV. I also made the movement more realistic through adding a camera blow through turning the shutter angle setting to 180 degrees, as well as adding the turbulent displace effect and increasing the size of the turbulence, which makes the movement look warped. My first art rotoscope animation was a prototype where I found that my process of creating the rotoscope having many problems, including the creation of the 4-panel print template being too small to paint, as it would have a low resolution when processed into a video at the end, as well as it being fully opaque, making me trace the print. Hence, I changed it to a 2-panel print template with much better size and detail, and it was a better experience when painting the frames through making the image half transparent. Although from printing with a thicker watercolor paper, it resulted in the end result having unpleasant print lines appearing in the video. I created a collage rotoscope animation where I first converted the chosen video to the print frames using a very handy import video to layers tool, which selects one frame every 10 frames from the video. Before I would have to manually select all the frames through selecting one and counting every 10 frames until selecting the next. I wanted to be more creative for this rotoscope, and I came up with cutting out random images out of a surf magazine and gluing them onto the paper, then painting lightly some colors and also text to add to the aesthetic. The result of using normal A4 paper was that it crinkled when the paint dried being so thin, so I tested ironing the prints lightly and when scanning, placing a heavy book on top of the papers to get a clear scanned image, and it worked. I first tried cropping the images using the default previewer, but it ended up with inaccurate cropping of the frames with a bit of white edges visible. I solved this issue by changing to Photoshop to crop the images as it had a better interface, making it quicker with capabilities such as zooming in to make sure no white space showed, as well as rotating some off-angled prints from uneven scanning. I created a sunset background for my claymation video through drawing a rectangle and filling with the gradient tool function in Adobe Illustrator. I also made flowers using the curvature tool and added them to the background. Compiling all the raw videos and editing them took a lot of time as I needed to cut the videos according to the specific use in my film. Whether they're B-roll clips or drone clips, they needed to be edited correctly according to my storyboard. I tested converting a 4K video to 1080p video resolution using a free conversion app that ended up not working. Instead, I ended up finding that in Premiere Pro you can scale down the 4K videos to 50% until they fit the screen resolution. After filming, some video shots were very shaky, so I used Warp Stabilizer to smoothen the videos, though this technique could only work for moderately shaky videos, so it could not salvage excessively shaky footage. Upon reflection, investing in better camera equipment that increases footage stability is a more preferable option. I converted my 30 frames per second videos to 24 frames per second to make the videos more cinematic, with the lower frame rate naturally giving off motion blur due to the smaller frame rate. I created many special effects including super slow motion, manipulating the speed of the clip, glitch transitions using grid turbulence displace and noise effects. I also made a wave transition with turbulent displace effect and keyframing its position, as well as a blurry reverberating effect controlling the echo controls panel. I prototyped some different camera angles when flying the drone at the local grass oval, seeing which looked the best. Some dangers with flying would be that the conditions are vital to get good drone videos, as flying in windy areas can cause shaky footage. Also, my film's drone videos were shot over water, which requires skill, confidence, and depends on the weather also. As well as this, the locations for filming aren't ideal to take off and land a drone from, with uneven rocky surfaces impacting how it will fly off and land. I solved this by takeoff and landing on my backpack's flat surface when placed.